Hey everyone, Mr. W here. Today's lesson's on rounding numbers through tens, hundreds, or thousands. We'll be working with four-digit numbers today like 3,285. Rounding means that we just need to find a number that's close to the number we're starting with. It doesn't have to be exact. And when we're rounding, our final answer is going to end either in one or several zeros. Our first step is we need to determine which place value are we rounding to. So let's, for this example, do hundreds. So 3,285, the 2 is in the hundreds place value. So our first step today would be to underline the place value that we want to round to. Then box, we're going to round that digit and the next digit over. Then we're going to take the number in the box and round it to the nearest 10. So for example, 28, if we use a rounding chart today, is in between 20 on the left side and 30 on the right side. The 20 and the 30 are called tens, and our job is to pick one of those two numbers, the one that's closest. So that would be the 30. The 28 rounds to 30. Then our last step are rules for left and right. The left stays the same. So for example, see the 3 and the comma? That stays exactly the same. On the right side, we're going to turn any digits into a 0. So that 5 turns into a 0. So our final answer would read 3,285 rounded to the nearest 100 equals 3,300. So we're dealing with problems like that today. This lesson, we'll talk a little bit about place value, how to use a rounding chart. We'll look at our steps a couple of times, and then we'll solve some problems. So let's start with place value. 3,285 on a place value chart, the 5 would be in the ones place value. The 8 is in the tens place value, and the 2 is in the hundreds place value. Those three are called the ones, period. Now the question is, well, what about the 3? Well, the 3 is not in the ones period. That's in something called the thousands period. And the thousands period also has ones, tens, and hundreds. But those are called 1,000s, 10,000s, and 100,000s. So our 3 is in the 1,000s, but that's usually just called the thousands. The comma in between just separates the thousands period from the ones period. So, name the place value of the underlined digit. Okay, did you say thousands? Great. How about that? What is the place value of the 6? That's the tens. Great. And one more. That too is in the hundreds place value. So make sure that you know your place values to be able to round these kinds of problems. All right, let's talk a little bit about a rounding chart. So a rounding chart looks like that with the yellow columns are on the left and right. Those are called tens. And for example, if we had the number 47 and we wanted to round that to the nearest 10, we would find 47. 47 is in between 40 on the left and 50 on the right. Our job is to pick only one of those two numbers, the one that the 47 is closest to. So that would be the 50. And we would say that 47 rounds to 50. That's referred to as rounding up, by the way. Okay, let's look at an example of rounding down. So for example, 84. If we find 84 on the chart, that's in between 80 and 90. We have to pick only one. And in this case, 80 is closer. So we would say that 84 rounds down to 80, or just rounds to 80. The 5 rule, for example, if we have a number like 35, and notice that's in between 30 and 40, and it's exactly the same amount of spaces to the left or to the right. So the question is, which one should we pick? Well, the 5 rule says that numbers that end with 5 will round up. So any number in that column that ends with 5 rounds up. Rounding up means on a rounding chart that we're rounding to the right side. not in this case the left. We would be rounding up to the right. So 35 would round up to 40, even though it's the same distance to the 30 as the 40. So 35 rounds to 40. Okay, let's talk about steps. Directions: round the number to the closest 10. Okay, so the first step is to underline, box, round, left and right. And remember, left will stay the same and right will be 0. So let's look at one together. So let's underline. Which digit do we underline? Well, the direction says the 10, so that would be the 8. Then we box, so we have 85. Next, we're going to round, and we're using a rounding chart today. 85 is going to round up to 90 because of the 5 rule. And now rules for left and right. The left stays the same. So the 3, 2 stays exactly the same. There are no numbers to the right for this problem, so our answer is 3,290. Let's look at another example. Round the number to the closest 1,000. Underline, remember which digit, that's important. We're going to thousands this time, so that would be the 3. Box. The 32, we are going to round, and we're using a rounding chart today. 32 rounds to 30. And then we want rules for left and right. Well, on the left, there are no numbers on the left for this example, but there are some numbers to the right. They pop into zeros. So our answer for this problem is 3,000. Rounding numbers with 95 through 99 requires an extra step, so let's look at that. What you're looking at is the rounding chart at the very bottom, and we want to pay special attention to the 95 through 99. So for example, 8,972, and if we would have to round that, say, to the nearest 100, we underline, box, 97 rounds to 100. Now this is where you need to pay attention. Notice that 100 is a 3-digit number. So when you write the 3 digits, you're going to have to slide that 1 over to the left side of the box. The left side. If you do that, you'll be fine. Now, the question is, well, what about the 8? Does the 1 just take the place of the 8 or cover it up? No. In this case, you actually have to add the 1 to any other digits that's there. So we would have to add the 8 plus 1. Don't add the 97. Remember, we rounded that into the 0, 0, okay? So 8 plus 1, your answer would look 9, 0, 0. And then our last step is we take that 2, pop that into a 0, and that's 9,000, okay? Don't accidentally put your 100 to the right side, because you'll get the wrong answer. Once we do the digits to the left, you would get the answer of 8,100, and that would be the wrong answer. Okay, so solve some problems. Excuse me. Round 5,647 to the places shown. The nearest 1,000, nearest 100, nearest 10. So we'll actually take the same number and round it to all 3 place values. Okay, ready? Let's start. Nearest 1,000, underline the thousands, box. 56 rounds up to 60, so that rounds to 60. We have no digits to the left, and the 47 pops into the zeros, so our answer for the thousands is 6,000. Now let's do 100. Remember, we're doing the same number, but this time we're going to start by underlining the hundreds, box. 64 rounds down to 60. And this time, notice that we do have digits left and right. The 5 on the left stays the same. Don't forget your comma. And the 7 pops into a 0. And so our answer is 5,600. Now we're going to do the same number, but this time to the nearest 10. So we underline, box, 47 rounds to 50. And we only have digits to the right this time. Don't forget your comma. Remember, there's nothing to the right. Excuse me, we only have digits to the left, so our answer would be 5,650. And so that's how we would solve that problem. Now the question is, why would we need to do thousands or hundreds or tens? Why can't we just do thousands? The whole idea is that close closer, closest. So when you're rounding to the nearest 10, that is as close as you can get. And sometimes you only need to get a little bit close. So that's the whole idea with that. What is 7,973 rounded to the nearest 100? Okay, so let's rewrite the problem. And our place value is 100, so we underline the hundreds, box. 97 rounds to 100. Now remember, that's a 3 digits. So remember, when we write that, we want to slide it to the left side, okay? And we're going to add the 7 plus the 1. We're not adding the 97, right? Because we already rounded that. And then our last step is to pop that 3 into a 0. And our final answer would be 8,000. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you made it this far, great job. And we hope to see you on the next one.